Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the On with Shahan podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. She's an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, and the author of the book Confidence Creator. My guest is Heather Monahan. Heather, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I've certainly been following you for a long time. I'm a huge fan of your work. I've seen you multiple times. One time I forgot that it was you because I hadn't seen you in a few years, but I was following the Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, kind of different sales workshops. Then I saw all the posts. I started following you. Then you were on the Gary Vee show. Then you released your book. I mean, you have a lot of accomplishments, a lot of things that you're doing. For those that don't know you, could you provide just a little bit of background of what led you to what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's funny. You don't even talk about my corporate America experience, which was sort of
Right.
the foundation of where I came from, right? So I was in sales and sales leadership since I was 20 years old. I was in the radio. I started off working for the Gallo Winery in sales, and then I moved to the radio business. I became an equity partner when I was 24 years old
Wow.
and took a $25 million property, turned it into a $55 million property in under 3 years. And then I cashed out of that venture and went to work for a publicly traded radio company, national company. And I pitched them for a job that didn't exist, VP of sales. I was awarded the position, and during my tenure there, over a 14-year period, I more than doubled the company's revenue. When I left, we were billing in excess of $200 million annually, and I had just been named one of the most influential women in radio in 2017, and I was unexpectedly fired, which ultimately led me to becoming an entrepreneur, writing my first book, launching my podcast, getting into the speaking business, giving my first TEDx talk, which was promoted to TED. And then when the pandemic hit, launching my executive coaching business.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there. And that story you had is really interesting from when you got fired. I actually had a very similar experience. I was in the crypto industry. When the crypto industry crashed, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of venture capital firms went under. And I identified a lot with the work that I was doing there, the cool companies that I was investing in. And the stuff that really resonated that you spoke about is like, you attach yourself many times to these organizations and the different companies that you work for. But you also have to have confidence within yourself and having confidence in not needing these other things in order for you to come into the room and kind of own that room. So why do you think confidence is so important? Why was it so important for you? And then are there some areas and some things that we can think about how we can improve confidence in our life?
Yeah, I mean, confidence is the single most important difference maker in my experience in business. When you're confident, you're willing to innovate. When you're confident, you're willing to take risks and share your ideas and raise your hand and jump in the conversation. However, when you're not confident, which I've had plenty of times in my career where I wasn't confident, those are the moments where you hold yourself back, you dim your light, you play it safe, you're quiet, you don't share ideas. And through that, there's no growth, right? So when you become confident, you really begin to grow and evolve and innovate and all these great things that, can come from that epicenter of you feeling good about who you are and owning who you are. There's so many different ways that anyone can create confidence. The number one way is to listen to your voice and your intuition over everyone else. So often when we're not confident, we want to check in with everybody else and find out what they think and what their advice is. And the majority of the time, those people aren't positioned to advise you, right? So if you're asking your family, oh, what do you think I should do in this business situation? That's probably not the best mentor to lean on in that one situation or that one instance. we just default to people around us. And oftentimes people around us want to protect us. They want to keep us safe. And that means talking us out of growth, talking us out of stepping into our confidence, but, kind of in some ways holding us back. So, allowing people to have their own limitations, thanking them for them and handing them back to them is another way to create confidence for yourself, and follow your own path, your own ideas. Firing the villains in your life is a really powerful way to create confidence. If you have people that put you down, are negative around you, trying to pull you back, getting rid of them from your life completely allows for opportunity for more positive people to show up, for you to begin controlling and directing your own life.
Yeah, I resonate with so much of what you said. And actually, a big challenge of mine was friends and family. I do have accomplished friends and family, but not in what I'm doing. And I took a lot of weight in what they were saying. Like even starting the podcast, I was so awkward in the beginning. I'm still awkward now. I'm not a full version of myself. It's getting better each time, the more I do it. But it's just like family influence. I'm doing a startup. There's a lot of risk. I'm newly married. So like there's a lot of risk. And to your point, they're probably looking after me. But it's tough to kind of take that noise away and focus on what you need to, and surround yourself with people that are going to take you to the next phase. And that kind of pivots to also, I think there can be these negative influences, people that kind of bring you down within the workforce, even if you're working in corporate America. You had a great video that I think you talked about. It was like a 2009 versus 2020 comparison or something, but the clip was essentially talking about how there are bosses who could potentially sabotage what you're doing, or they can put you down, or they're trying to act like they're helping. There's this great picture where somebody has his hand trying to reach down, but the rope is behind them to help. So they're appearing as if they're helping, but they're not really helping. And that's something that certainly resonates with me. And your path outside from getting fired to what you're doing today is unbelievable in terms of all that you've accomplished. So for those that are stuck in a situation right now, I have a lot of friends, a lot of family who are in the situation where they don't like their job, they don't like their boss, they don't like what they're doing, but they've created a standard of living for themselves where they kind of feel like it's a trap and they can't get out, and they don't even know the process, and they might not have the right people around them to guide them. So from your opinion, what is some steps, some practical steps, or the way you processed, maybe you didn't have a choice in your case, but the way you processed moving to a career where you own everything, you are the entrepreneur, and you're really leading the way for yourself?
I certainly had a choice, right? So I got fired from a company.
Got
However,
it.
I had a massive reputation in business and in the radio industry that I was in, right? So I had just been named one of the most influential women in radio. I had been written up in countless articles around my accomplishments and the responsibilities and achievements I had. So I could have gone to any industry in the world and pitched myself for a chief revenue officer position with a very extensive resume, with very extensive track record of success. Right. I chose not to do that by taking the biggest risk of my life. To me back then, it's almost 3 years ago now, I remember saying, if I'm going to go start over somewhere, I'd rather roll the dice on me than another company, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get when you walk into another company. Right. I didn't know what I was going to get when I went to work for myself, because I had never been an entrepreneur before. I had always been the number 2 guy at a company. I had never been the CEO. Right. So I just sat and thought about it. And I thought, if I'm going to bet on someone, I'm going to bet on the person I know and trust, which is me. And I feel like that's a much safer gamble than going out and yet again propping somebody else up, yet again fitting into somebody else's culture, yet again supporting and delivering for someone else. And I actually just shared the story on my podcast last week. There was a big joke. The CEO I worked for 14 years was in his 80s, and he built this massive multi-million-dollar home on the ocean. It was probably $20+ million. Wow. He had a housewarming party and invited all of the executives over. So I was on this, group of executives heading to his party. And when we got off, someone said, "Oh my gosh, look, it's the house that Heather built." And everyone was laughing, and it was funny. My job is revenue generation and to drive revenue streams. So he was saying I paid for the house. It was funny in that it was true. And that moment was an epiphany for me. Was, hang on, if I'm the one driving the income that delivers the mansion for the CEO, how do I become the CEO then? Because I know how to drive the revenue, right? So if I know how to do that, I should be the one living in the mansion, not building it and then showing up for an hour and having to leave when the party is over. So I left that event that night thinking, I'm doing something wrong. And in the end, what I was doing wrong was I wasn't willing to double down and bet on me and make the leap. That's what the CEO had done when he was in his 30s that I wasn't willing to do when I was in my 30s. He took the leap and went out there and had an idea and went all in and bought a radio station and became the CEO of his company. I hadn't been willing to do that yet. So that was the missing piece for me that I had to add into the puzzle. And that's not saying that it's been easy at all since I started my own company. It hasn't been easy. It's been plenty of failure, and there's been many business opportunities and partnerships that I launched that did not pan out, that ended up being a waste of time. However, they've led me to where I am today. And, you know, through each instance and occurrence, I learned something new. And now I actually just signed a book deal with HarperCollins Leadership to launch my next book, Leapfrogging Villains, which will be out next year. And I'm actually using each of those failed partnerships and stories and flaws and success as the different chapters to my book so that other people coming along can see, oh, wow, that was a good idea to try that. Ooh, that wasn't such a good idea. Here's why that failed. I won't apply that back to my life.
I love that. And when you made the transition from working as the number two to now you running the show, were there things about yourself? Were there things about yourself you worked on, like self-development, daily practices, maybe meditation? Are there things that you do that help you with your personal development efforts?
Well, you know, I had worked on my personal development from the time I got divorced, which is now 12 years ago. So
Okay.
that had been a process I had already been working on. So no, for me to dive into personal development, been there, done that. I'd already been living like that for more than a decade, right? So for me, it was just more about showing up as the real, authentic me. For 14 years, I was always pushed back down and told, you know, don't wear that, oh, quiet, don't go speak at that event. No, don't talk, Heather, you know, because other people were intimidated or threatened by me. When I came to work for myself, I get the most beautiful thing in the world is I go to LinkedIn and I can write whatever I want. No one's calling legal and threatening me and chastising me about my words and my opinion. I rock and own whatever I feel like whenever I feel like it. If I want to launch a product line, I go launch a product line. And if it fails, I am not afraid to get in trouble because I know my boss supports me. My boss believes in innovation. My boss believes in taking chances and just moving fast and bringing value. And it's really exciting because for a long time I wanted to work for someone like that, and now I actually get to.
Yeah, yeah, that's so spot on because I feel like when I'm working at a company, to your point, I feel like I'm in a box. I'm a very creative person, so I was in sales too, right? So I'm selling, and there's the marketing and content and different things I wanted to say, but it's like, no, stick to your thing and don't do anything else. And it's just like, well, why do I have to be this lesser version of myself just to fit into whatever mold this needs? And then when I joined the company, there, I did all, to your point, like I'm just like, I probably went a little too far in the beginning because I love the freedom, but you know, I've toned it back a little bit. But it's like I get to do all these things, like the podcasts, like writing, like engaging, all the things you said, where I didn't get the opportunity to do that before. And what was difficult for me and a challenge was realizing that I work for myself. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but when you're working for someone for so long, you forget that, hey, you work for yourself. You could do whatever you want, whatever you need to do. And I think it takes some time to get out of that kind of rhythm of you got to do this, you got to do things this way. And until the point where you really catch your voice and you're really talking authentically, then people are really going to resonate with you. On that point, when you look at entrepreneurs who are making that jump from working for somebody, maybe accomplished or not accomplished or early on, what do you think are some of the skills gaps that people need to work on? You know, you work with a lot of people. I know you have a mentorship program. Are there some skills gap that you focus on that people lack when they start their own thing?
The biggest issue I see with people when they go to work for themselves is you need to be resourceful. Unless you're just independently wealthy and you can hire a team, which I was not, right? So every dollar I was spending was a massive concern to me. It was a massive investment. So when you're in that situation, you have to be resourceful. You have to say, I'm going to Google it and figure it out. I'm not going to hire somebody to do this. I'll find a way. And that's how I wrote and self-published my own book. That's how I launched my speaking career. I just Googled things. I didn't have some intel that nobody else has. No, I just said, hang on, I see an opportunity. I see something here. How can I connect these dots? Better get online and start figuring it out and trying and fail and try and fail and try. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when you come from a corporate America position, I used to have so much support, and that's what I miss, right? I had a technology team. I had a graphic arts team. I had a marketing department. I had sales managers. I had people to handle various things for me. So now who's the person in charge of the cold calling and trying to figure out ways to automate it? That's me. Who's the person in charge of vision and goals? That's me. And who's the person in charge of execution? That's me. And graphic arts and technology. I'm all of it, right? So as you build out a company on your own, you've got to find ways to be resourceful. And anyone that gets into working for themselves, I'm an extremely hard worker, always have been. That's just something, that's who I am. So I worked really hard in corporate America, but I will tell you, I work even harder now. And I know a lot of people find that very hard to believe because I traveled every single week when I was in corporate America. But when you launch your own company, those first few years, you have to be ready to go all in to a whole nother level.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And those tools, like you were talking about doing things on yourself, if you do research it, like you were saying, you will find things that will help optimize productivity. Like, for example, this podcast here, I'm recording it on Zoom. I'm going to take the video, I'm going to put it on YouTube, and I'm going to put it on Facebook. And then I'm going to take the audio file, put it on anchor.fm. That distributes it to, Radio Public, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You could take clips and put that on Instagram. There's so much that you could do, but you need to Google and research this stuff. And it makes you such more of a rounded out person and all the things that you do. So I agree with that. I enjoy finding these little tools now that can help with productivity. Like Canva, for example, you can create a great thumbnail and it looks like a professional one. You don't have to go and pay a lot of money. Whereas in corporate America, you're just like, oh, the marketing, the content team, we'll hire somebody to do that. There's none of that, but that makes you so much more resourceful. And it also puts you in a position where you can help so many more people because there's so many other things that you're doing and you're not just throwing money at a problem. So I think that's really important. And one of the other things that I really resonate with what you're saying is I feel like you have this greater purpose in life, this greater mission in life. How did you find or discover that mission? It's probably over time, but like, is that what motivates you every day? Do you have this like grand vision of where Heather is going to be and then you're working towards that, or there's smaller goals? How do you think about your success or like what you're going to do for the rest of your life, your legacy that you're going to leave?
I have no idea. I mean, here's the thing. I know this, I'm 45 years old, and up until I was 42 or 43 when I got fired? I think I was 43. So up until then, I saw my purpose as deliver the paycheck, deliver shareholder value, increase revenues in this very linear path in corporate America, where I believe my next position would be CEO of the company I work for or a similar company that I didn't own that was publicly traded. That's what I saw. Here's what I know now. That was BS. I didn't know that I was about to get fired and completely pivot and change, right? That was never my purpose. That was the life I was living. 5 years before I got fired, one of my vendors and I were sitting in a meeting in New York City very early in the morning. And he said, I got to ask you a question. He's much older than I am. And he said, what's your big picture vision for your future? And I said, what are you talking about? I'm running this company. My Q1 goal is this, my Q2 goal is this, my Q3. He said, that's not what I'm asking you. Why are you here? I said, I'm a mom. And he said, that's what I'm asking you. And he kept challenging me to really look within me. What was my calling? What was it that I loved doing that if I didn't get paid, I would do anyways, outside of my child, outside of creating a paycheck, creating wealth? He said, what is it? And I said, I really don't know. And he said, well, I'm going to challenge you to figure that out. So for, a few months, I would ask people, what do you think about that question? And a friend of mine said, the only way you're going to figure it out, put yourself in really weird situations that you would never go in, and you'll start discovering things about yourself. So I thought, okay. So I took a stand-up comedy class because I thought it sounded like a horrible idea. And it ends up being an amazing idea because they give you plenty of different bizarre tasks and challenges that everyone goes through. But one of them was for everybody to stand alone on stage and speak for 7 minutes. You just had to talk. It was super easy for me. And everybody else was sweating and freaking out and struggling. And as I watched them struggle and watched me not struggle, I realized that's a gift of mine I didn't know I had. I just assumed everybody had it because no one had pointed it out that it was easy for me. I just didn't notice it. I was so busy in my life. So I started thinking, if this is a gift that I have, that I can just stand up and speak and I don't get nervous and flustered, what other elements could go along with that? And right at that same time, I started getting involved in charity work. And I joined the board of City Year Miami Charity. And I'd always loved helping others, specifically helping children. I didn't have the greatest upbringing, so I really liked being a force of good around children in underprivileged situations. That had always been in the back of my mind. And I started realizing I can speak at my charity events, bring a superpower that I have that adds value to them while helping others. So I started doing a lot of speaking and a lot of charity work. Then I started emceeing charity events. Then, and slowly doors just started opening up around that, which over years led me to, I have a speaking career now that I get paid for. Right. Whenever I want to help others, I'm helping people with the message that I bring forth. So it's sort of come full circle in that now I get to do purpose-driven work that I'm paid for and compensated for, that helps others and showcases my unique talents and abilities. And to me, that's a legacy. When you're helping people on a daily basis, you're thriving as a result of it, creating value for others and creating value for yourself while living your purpose.
I love that. And it's so funny. I signed up for, I was from the Bay Area originally, but I'm in LA now, but I signed up for, I think it was called Cobb's Comedy Club. They had an intro to stand-up class as well. I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan, so the fact that you said that is really funny. To me, that's my biggest fear. I still haven't done it. I consider myself a decent public speaker, but that's on my list of things to do, is like bomb in front of an audience and own it.
Oh no, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to give me a deadline. When are you going to have it done by? When are you doing it?
That's a good idea. How about this? If there are open spots by end of September, I will do it by end of September. If they open up the comedy, let's put it on the record. By end of September, I will do a 5-minute spot in LA at one of these comedy clubs that's open. I think they're trying one outside, like the Dave Chappelle special. If you saw that, they did it outside. But I want to do it, and I keep pushing it back. I did the podcast, which I was pushing back, but I finally got that started. But the things that you're saying, identifying your superpower, and then if you can align what you do for work with that purpose-driven kind of mission, it's such a good alignment and doesn't feel like work. I mean, it probably does sometimes, but you're loving what you're doing and the impact that you're making, which motivates you to do more and work harder, which I think is really good. I have a similar experience in the sense that I'm only doing things that I like to do, and I'm trying to speak to people that inspire me. And that's helping me, with this mission and going on and taking these different steps. So one of the things I've been researching that you've been doing along these lines is you just launched a mentorship program, and which I find really great. You would be an amazing mentor, obviously, with all your experience. So tell me about this mentor program, what it is, who should get involved. Do you have like maybe a qualification process? Is it for anybody? Is it open? Tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, so it arose out of need. So my number one revenue driver up until the pandemic was my speaking engagements. And those came to a screeching halt. I believe my last one was March 8th, and everything was canceled after that. So I'm a single mother. I was freaking out, and I jumped on my Peloton because my best ideas come to me when I'm working out. This was the first week of the pandemic, not knowing how long this was going to be happening. And I just started racking my brain. What is it that people ask me for that I haven't noticed or paid attention to because I was too busy with my speaking business? So I went back to my DMs, which is a great way to see what people are asking you, your emails and your private messages. And I kept seeing people would message me, do you mentor? Do you offer coaching? Would you mentor me? And I started seeing this pattern that I had been ignoring just because I didn't have any time. So I decided, okay, ready is a lie. So I'm just going to put a post up on LinkedIn the next day. And I put a post up, hey, for everybody that's been wondering if I offer mentoring and coaching, I do effective now. Thanks to the pandemic, I'm on lockdown for at least the next month. So I will launch my first ever inaugural mentoring program May 1st. I have limited spots available. If you want to be part of the team, click here and I will sign you up. I didn't have a website for it. I didn't have an offering for it. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just figured if people are asking me for it, I'll be able to figure it out. So I signed up 10 people and maxed it there. And I decided, okay, I started with a weekly Zoom call, a team weekly meeting, daily email access to me. That's what it included. And then I guaranteed the results, because if you guarantee results, then you don't have to worry about, well, I'm trying something new. Hopefully this works, right? So I just said to everyone, I guarantee money back guarantee. It went fantastic. And then I realized I way overcommitted myself. I didn't charge enough. I didn't do my due diligence and research to see what other people were charging 100 times what I was charging. So I grandfathered. I couldn't kick my people out that wanted to keep staying with me. So I said, if you stay in every month, you stay at this rate, everybody else is going up to the next rate and next tier for next month. And I was pulling back on my one-on-one time so I could be more effective. And I had overcommitted myself. So I continue to evolve the mentoring program each month. It's been amazing because the team of people are so different. I have a stay-at-home mom. I have an unemployed executive assistant. I have a CEO. I have a CFO. I have people, an SVP of sales. So it's like-minded people that aren't necessarily in the same situation, but they all want to go to the next level in their life, whatever that may mean for them. And they push one another. Every Friday, we do a team meeting where everybody holds the other person accountable. Hey, you were supposed to get this done this week. Did you pull the trigger? Did you launch the podcast? Did you pitch yourself for the raise? Did you do that? So we celebrate wins, we brainstorm challenges. And then on my meetings that I offer individually with them, we go through, different tactics that they can employ to achieve their goals, et cetera. And then I also have guest speakers on my Friday meeting, people who are experts in different arenas that come in and really elevate the team. So that's been great. But that led me to, which I would never have known otherwise, people started, when they saw I was mentoring, they wanted to do executive coaching. They didn't want to be a part of a team. They didn't want to be a part of the mentoring program. They wanted to buy just one-on-one coaching programs with me. So that's a much higher ticket item. And so I launched that last month, and that's been going fantastic, but it's all an evolution of my speaking business got shut down. I had to figure out what else I could offer to drive revenue. I looked to see what people wanted and needed. I launched it. I've evolved it and grown it, and that's now sprouted off into a different business.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, you took the situation you were in, you pivoted to something, and then you enhanced that even more. And I think it's right in line with your skill sets, at least what I've seen. If I've been following Heather for a few years, I highly recommend checking out that program. I'll make sure to put a link in the podcast to that. I think it's very important. And those that want coaching, highly recommended. Read her book, Confidence Creator. It's awesome. How can we follow you, Heather? What are some ways that we could stay connected? Obviously the mentorship program, but what's your handles for social? Are there ways what's the best way to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, on all social media, I'm at Heather Monahan. My podcast is called Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan. It drops every Tuesday. You can find it anywhere you find your podcast. My book, Confidence Creators, on Amazon, and my website is heathermonahan.com. You can go there to sign up for my free accountability partner program, my free ebook. I've got lots of free offerings on my website as well.
Awesome. Make sure to follow Heather Monahan, one of my favorite people to follow. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining the podcast. Hope to do it again soon, and I really, really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate your support.